Very nice. Very nice.
You did. Go.
Sorry, I missed you the other day. We were just taking the kids out.
So what do you think?
I think place CO2 is thrown up 420. Yeah, and
I looked at it. I heard the Buffalo Spring Line, so if you wanted to go through it.
you might have to.
Back,
You might have to.
but if you order it
Oh, no, no.
get on it. She's kicking it,
Okay, yeah,
but the back,
I need it. And there's probably some games because I do a lot of things.
yeah. Center, you should find out.
Yeah. So I'll look at it then.
Oh yeah, he's got it in his hand.
I said we went from 150.
No, they're closing the door, so he's back. Wait for the doors. No. They are, they're on. Oh yeah, that's the whole thing. He's not everywhere.
Oh, you!
Wow, don't move over.
Because I didn't even like pay attention when I saw you say what's going on and you rushed out. I was like, so I texted you really first.
You don't need to say that nice. Come on.
I know.
You need to say something, you know. Which one? What, here?
That was in there.
A couple of them.
Yeah, got two. Well, one of them.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, once you're in, you can't come out. We were like, no, we can't pull this carriage.
I give you till tomorrow. You want to come to school tomorrow and help me? We got a lot to do tomorrow.
What you hear, yeah. I remember that. They all, every person.
Oh, so you're way available. That's what I'm hearing. Not that you're all, but you're available. My guess is that's all.
Oh, did you? You went to her house?
Essentially, it's the same thing we want to
This meeting will now come to order. Adequate notice of this meeting was provided by sending such notice to the Asbury Park Press, the Middletown Patch, and the Middletown Township Public School District website, and the posting of such notice at the August T. Minor administrative offices and each elementary, middle, and secondary school in the district. Roll call.
Mrs. Caminetti?
Here.
Mr. DeFranco?
Here.
Mr. Donlin?
Here.
Mr. Dymo? Mr. Little? Here. Mrs. Menues? Here. Mrs. Wright? Here. Mrs. Stella? Here. Mrs. Ryan?
Here, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. First and foremost, we'd like you to know that this decision to recommend the consolidation of Port Monmouth and New Monmouth elementary schools has weighed heavily on the Board of Education and on the administration. Due to the state of funding cuts, our district is facing difficult financial realities as we prepare our budget for the coming school year. The Board of Education is responsible for considering and voting on the budget plan recommended by the superintendent and administrative team. This budget plan is required to include the means for providing a thorough and efficient education for all district students. Over the next 4 years, Middletown is projected to realize an additional reduction of $2.8 million in state aid. I am testifying at the state Senate public hearing tomorrow, and there are copies available on the side of my testimony. All information related to the consolidation plan was reviewed with the Department of Education, Monmouth County Executive Superintendent. Dr. Richens supports my recommendation for the proposal based on the budget shortfall. He respects the board's responsibility to vote on the proposal and will support the action. We have held three public forums, including 8.5 hours of public meeting time, 4 hours and 45 minutes of public comment. We have answered all emails and posted comprehensive, up-to-date information on our website relating to the consolidation plan. We have listened to your questions and concerns and have provided perspective on the reasons for the proposed consolidation. Still, we understand how personal this is for the families of Port Monmouth, and I see our students here before us tonight, and I welcome your presence and our families of New Monmouth. I want you to know, no matter which direction the board votes tonight, you will have continued support moving forward in the future. Difficult times can lead to more opportunities. Under this plan, we will be able to maximize the reduction of class sizes while efficiently and effectively providing the appropriate delivery of services and programs in our district's newest and most recently renovated elementary school. At this time, I will turn it over to the board president to begin the public comment process.
Madam President, if I may, just in order to remind the board and public of the applicable board policy and bylaw regarding public comment, pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, the public of each board meeting has to be set aside for public comment. The board is and will open the microphones to my left to your right for public comment at this time. Please note all speakers. Each person must announce their name. You are limited to 3 minutes. These are the same ground rules we discuss at every board meeting, not just with this topic, but in general. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes, and the entire portion of this public comment period is 30 minutes. So each speaker gets a maximum of 3 minutes. The total time will be 30 minutes. If and when your 3 minutes expires, I will, in a very professional and polite manner, motion to you to please wrap your comment up. In the past, individuals have attempted to read pages and pages when given the signal. I would respectfully ask on behalf of the board that the individual stop speaking and or perhaps finish the sentence, but not proceed to speak for minutes at a time. It's now 7:06 p.m. The public comment period will end at 7:36 p.m. The first speaker can go.
Excuse me a minute. 1 minute before they start and you start timing again, I want to make a motion. We're closing the school we're voting on. We're only going to give them a half hour to talk. I think it's really very disrespectful. I think the motion is to let the people finish speaking. Not 30 minutes. If it takes an hour and a half for them to speak, we're here for one vote. Let them speak. Do not cut them off.
all 200 people to speak. I will note that while the board has done that at not the last meeting, but the meeting before the last one, that really is not a best practice for a public entity to pick and choose when to follow its bylaws and when not to follow its bylaws. We have board members who have been on the board for 20 plus years or 2 plus years. And they had every opportunity to modify bylaws at any particular time. There's a process in which board members are familiar with to modify bylaws as required.
Why do we have to follow bylaws if you're not following your policy?
So we operate
Motion
city
is second.
laws.
Call for the vote.
I'm just stating.
Vote.
I would ask the public to not disrupt the
Vote.
vote as I'm
Vote.
being
You
guided
work
to
for
the
us.
vote.
Vote. You're on our time.
So my suggestion would be for the board not to modify the bylaws.
No, you're on our time now.
Follow your
There's a
policy.
motion that's been properly moved.
Break your Rolex out. You're on our
Are
time.
there any other comments from board members? If not, we do a roll call.
I would like to make a comment on something that was just said. I have been on the board for 19 years, and the time has been extended due to certain circumstances at the time of the meeting. So this is nothing that's unusual.
Thank you.
Okay, roll call vote.
Mrs. Caminetti?
Yes.
Mr. DeFranco?
No.
Mr. Donlin?
No.
Mr. Little?
No.
Mrs. Minnies?
Yes?
Mrs. Wright?
Yes.
Mrs. Stella?
No.
Mrs. Rogers?
No.
Motion fails.
That's all right, you'll be getting voted out.
Get that on the news.
I'll be running again
in November.
Before I begin, children standing in the hallway and outside come in.
Exactly.
Why are we in here tonight, out of all night?
Are there people outside?
Yes! They're turning them away! They're not letting them in! Look at this!
If you choose not to make a public comment, that's your prerogative. The microphone is open for public comment. You may speak. And just for the record, man, this is where all the board meetings are. So the board is here 99% of the time.
Not fair.
Comment. Ma'am, if you choose not to exercise your right to public comment, you're wasting time for the other speakers. So you can speak now.
I'm speaking again about the lack of planning and violation of school closing policy 7130. Again, I want to emphasize that no matter how many frequently asked questions you put out in public, you have still not followed your own school policy, which we handed out. You did not invite citizen participation in the analysis of your data collection and the formation and recommendation to close a school. This is in violation of the policy. The frequently asked questions grew weekly after the proposal was submitted to the board and the public. The proposed plan has not demonstrated that sufficient school building capacity exists to house the students for 5 years following the closure as per your school policy. A new demographic study has not been completed past the 2021 school year, and frequently asked questions states an updated 5-year enrollment projection will be done this spring. This is in violation of your policy. The business administrator publicly stated last week that the $1.2 million in savings from closing Port Monmouth is included and broken down in our frequently asked questions. They are also handed out. Question number 1 states $3.8 million in savings is from the long-term facility plan. This is not part of that $1.5 million. Question 13 states that personnel and facility costs allocated to Port Monmouth School are $2.8 million annually in your frequently asked questions. It is now $1.2 million. Somehow, in the last few weeks, the cost to run our school has decreased by $1.6 million. Question 17 references the $3.7 million in maintenance required. It clarifies this by actually saying it's part of the $3.8 million long-term facilities plan, which isn't part of this budget savings. And realize the long-term facility plan for all of Middletown schools is $154 million, of which Port Monmouth School is 2%. Question 35, Port Monmouth School is back to 1.2 to run. This question still does not break down what is in that $1.2 million savings. only itemizes other budget cuts to fulfill the balance of the rest of your budget shortage. So I repeat, nowhere in the frequently asked questions do you disclose what the $1.2 million in savings consist of. Are there other frequently asked questions just deployed to confuse and run the public in circles against each other? You need to vote no to this resolution. It is not a well thought out, transparent consolidation plan. This is a reaction to public outcry on once again picking on one section of town. Traffic and safety studies for our children have not been done, and I hope everyone watched the YouTube or the video of the mother walking from Port Monmouth to New Monmouth School, as 50 walkers will do. I doubt any of you would put your children on those streets. Due to the administration violating their own policy and not being transparent, I encourage all board members to vote no.
Try to not get emotional. My name is Rebecca Jones. I have a third grader sitting right over there at Port Monmouth Elementary. I stand before you today as a mother who's mentally, emotionally, and physically tired, but I keep going because my child continues to fight for the school that she loves so much, the school that she started her educational journey in, the school she still gets excited to go to every morning. This school that she has so much pride for. So when Dr. George would come in and tell her how much better her new school would be, she was confused because she already had the best school. One that's filled with community values and camaraderie. You continue to placate us with smaller class sizes, something you cannot guarantee in the future, something that has nothing to do with this proposal. You are making a decision on false pretenses. Your administration has told us you have not finished an updated demographic study. Using outdated studies as a reference to predict the future enrollment is unacceptable and does not follow along with your district policy. So I'm asking that we look at the bigger picture. This quick fix, ill thought out, short-term plan has too many inconsistencies. It feels rushed and not thought out thoroughly. Our community does not feel heard. The dismissiveness from some of you towards us is utterly shameful. Our children and our community should not be a Band-Aid on a long-term problem. It is unfair that POMO, Port Monmouth, bear the weight of a town-wide issue. Your job as a Board of Education member is to advocate for the public and public schools. Our children are not resilient cattle that can be shifted around without a properly thought-out plan. Please make sure your deciding vote is one that is made ethically, morally, and honestly. I just want to reference one last time to remind Deborah Wright. You had stated that you are not in favor of closing neighborhood schools. To do so would have a devastating impact on the students enrolled in that school and the community it serves, as well as the local economy due to the loss of many valuable jobs. Thomas Giamo, sorry if I say your name wrong. Of course. At this point, he has stated that he is also most reluctant to close any neighborhood school. I would have to be presented with very compelling data information, which would even allow me to consider closing a community school. Our children's sense of community, especially given the sprawling nature of Middletown, comes from two places, their home and their school. To close a child's local school would, in my opinion, adversely impact that sense of community. I implore you today to please vote no at this time.
It's interesting what happens when you bring large groups of people together in too small a space and don't plan accurately. Fourth grade student, Lindsay, by my side because she believes in her school. When Dr. George made the proposal to close Port Monmouth, it seemed like minds were made up that this was the best plan to help the district financially. Our parents have spent these past 3 weeks researching what this closing means for our school and for the district. Board of Education, I view you as our checks and balances. If this was truly ever just a proposal, I would hope that you would take the arguments we've been presenting and really hear them. Mrs. Rogers, you act as the mouthpiece for the board. During a recent email one of our parents received, you wrote that if consolidated, the kids would be guaranteed more Title I/II funding. Also, parents aren't questioning Title I funding because frankly, the ins and outs of this funding are difficult to follow. If we are to make an informed decision on closing, both Board of Ed and parents need to have a clear understanding of what this funding provides. 20 minutes of the February 26th meeting were spent explaining the virtues of Title I ESSA money. I have listened to that same presentation about funding countless times. It was reported that ESSA grant monies equal almost $1 million. Sounds pretty great to a district that needs money, and this figure is true. However, that money covers many things that address the needs of targeted students and cannot replace normal operating costs as stated in the February 26th meeting. Services for homeless students, English language learners, immigrants, professional development, a portion of teacher salaries ranging anywhere from 30 to 40% of their salary. These are not classroom teachers. Also during this 20 minutes about Title I, Ocean Avenue school-wide Title I funding they are receiving next year was discussed at length. We were told why it was so advantageous for a school to be eligible for school-wide status because its benefits more than just targeted students. We are discussing New Monmouth and Port Monmouth consolidating. Why are we extensively covering the process of school-wide if it isn't even remotely possible for our school to qualify for that? I researched school-wide funding on my own after hearing this speech because I believed we might benefit from it if consolidated. That's why I asked the question last time I spoke about if we applied for it. This left me wondering how many other parents listening to that presentation thought, more money for all students? Maybe consolidation is worth it. However, based on the answer I received, a consolidated New Monmouth, Port Monmouth will remain targeted Title I school and will not receive funding that benefits all students. We also keep hearing about co-teaching. As a former classroom teacher, co-teaching is wonderful for 2 periods a day. Middletown has said the focus of co-teaching will be put on English language arts and math. During the February 26th meeting, it was said that Title I-II funding would be used to lower the student-to-teacher ratio by using a co-teacher model, and that it was win-win for everyone, which it would be for 2 periods a day. During minute 56 of that February meeting, it was said that in the Title I schools, this money is great because currently, quote, even if we wanted, I'm going to finish my sentence. Even in quote, okay? Even if we wanted to add a class size reduction teacher or add an extra teacher, we can't because they don't have the room capacity.
She went to Port Monmouth along with her 2 friends, Julie and Haley. They are concerned, they've been at every meeting. If you keep Port Monmouth open and send the kids who belong there, to that building, your teacher-to-student ratio would be even lower with the use of co-teaching model. Instead of cramming 25 kids into a classroom at Consolidated New Monmouth, the population would be properly redistributed, and you'd have 1 classroom teacher, 1 math reading specialist in a class of about 20. Co-teaching is not the magic bullet to our overcrowding problem. Redistricting is. If our students remain grandfathered in for Title I targeted funding for next year, why are we rushing the decision of possibly closing a school with Title I funds still at our disposal? It was also said at the February 26th meeting that targeted funds follow the student. If you redistrict, that targeted funding follows students and helps retain Title I funding in the following schools: Port Monmouth, New Monmouth, Bayview, Harmony, Leonardo, and Ocean Avenue, who is school-wide funded anyway. So Board of Ed and Middletown parents, do not assume Title I ESSA funds justify consolidation and the closing of Port Monmouth. And I think you all need to turn around and look at all the people that you locked out of this room tonight.
Hello, my name is Lisa Baker. I have 3 kids that will be in the public school next year. I had nice things to say at the end of my speech, but I'll just say this now instead. That I'd like everybody at home to know there's a lot of people outside and they're not letting people into the building. There's a huge tree here today instead of the auditorium that will facilitate all of us. I also think it's very weird, and Ms. Wright, I applaud you for going against the grain, that you will not let us speak when you are displacing 190 kids and we can't even all say our piece. I would like to remind the board of one thing. You have a choice. You don't have to do this. No matter how you felt going in, and I think we can all agree this isn't going as smoothly as you probably hoped it would, although I'm sure you knew you'd meet some resistance. You are going against the public with the second most requested item on the strategic planning survey, neighborhood schools. Some of you even use neighborhood schools as your talking points to get elected. We don't want this. New Monmouth is too far from Port Monmouth. This proposal is sloppy. So many unanswered questions you didn't even assume we would ask. You keep adding to your FAQ when some of these questions seem like common sense, and the mere fact we have to ask is a communication failure. Something you didn't think out or didn't feel needed to be originally communicated. This seems rushed, secretive, not well thought out logistically, and frankly, a little insensitive. If this happens, it needs to be a slow process, not something that happens in the next year or two. Maybe thought out to be more thought needs to be put into this planning couth. Parents need to be informed. They can stop investing their money in fundraising, only making your property more valuable. Even your assumption on how many walkers would actually walk, thinking any child under the age of older middle school should walk that distance, makes me question, makes me think your opinion is skewed of only budget issues and not the safety of our children. I don't and wouldn't let my daughter walk to school to New Monmouth, and I could see it from my second floor of my house and hear the kids playing at recess. I mean, those numbers were all New Monmouth kids, right? Right? If other schools get to choose where their kids go, are you saying Port Monmouth can't have that courtesy too? They can't even stay at a school closer to their home to keep the neighborhood feel? Give Port Monmouth the option to join us. If New Monmouth can take on more kids, send away the kids our way. Redraw lines in all schools, sending more our way. Relieving South of its overcrowding. Hit the district as a whole instead of making Port Monmouth your easy way out of a budget crisis. If we can't afford Port Monmouth School, maybe we shouldn't have special programs, blinds, math learning games, and stop pretending to be something we're not. These things we don't make and think. Maybe we should put the squeeze on our wallet and cut programming and unnecessary things. Dr. George, you having a conversation with the children of Port Monmouth before this topic was voted on is very inappropriate. Very. This isn't about you.
Excuse me, miss. You're 3 minutes up.
Okay, I'm finishing my sentence.
Thank you.
Regardless of how you felt it went, parents in this neighborhood told you that their kids took it negatively, and all you did was protest and defend yourself and how you felt it went. But, and the rest of it's not. Thank you.
I have a first grader right over there, Emma, in Port Monmouth, and 2 high school, a freshman and senior in high school north. I have been at Port Monmouth Elementary now for 13 years. I'm going to give you some facts on the under-enrollment that we're talking about, the declining enrollment. Port Monmouth is actually increasing their enrollment. We had a hurricane 7 years ago. 7 years ago, all of Port Monmouth was destroyed. I don't know if anybody's driven past there lately. I've given you numbers. I've showed you over the last 3 years, there's been over 100 houses sold. Now I'm going to give you numbers from back from when my freshman, 2015, Port Monmouth Elementary School had 268 students in it. Do you know we had 82 families? 82. We have 194 students now. We have 154 families in that school right now. That is double what we had at our high enrollment years ago before Sandy. That's insane. Where are all these kids going? First, you told me in Miss Felsman's classroom, face to face, Port Monmouth, we're going to move them. We won't touch them again. You have my word. Not even a week later, Dr. George, we got an email that you will only grandfather in K through 4, because you know the enrollment is going to go back up. Where are all these students going? Do you know how many students in our school are the oldest sibling with numerous kids at home? If you have 154 families there, what if everyone had 2? I know quite a few that have 4. That would be over 300 students in 3 years. Where are 300 students going? I've been in Port Monmouth for 20 years. I've never seen more children in my life there. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. You need to change the vote. We need to figure something else out, because this is going to cause a very big problem in 3 years. 3 years. We have 1 third grade, we have 1 second.
We have 2 first grades, 2 kindergartens, 2 kindergarten classes for next year, over 40 kids enrolled already. Where are these kids all going? Every year it's going to keep increasing. You have to think this through. This is a major thing that you have to think through. You should not be closing a school in a town. It makes the whole town look bad. Everyone is going to suffer. Everyone in our town, not just Port Monmouth. We're just going to suffer because you're not giving us time to rebuild from Hurricane Sandy. I lost my house. I moved home in 2015. I was the first one to move back home. Do you know how much construction was going on? If you bought a house in 2016 or 2017 and had a baby, can you do the math for me, Dr. George? How old would that baby be if they moved in 2016 and had a baby in 2016? They would not be in school yet.
Hi, my name's Rachel Konopka. I have 3 kids, 2 at Thompson, 1 at Nut Swamp. Thanks for taking the time to listen to my comments. I know from past meetings there are a number of issues our district is facing, and I've seen evidence of them. I know as of right now, the most immediate one is that we have a budget gap for next year, and that closing down Port Monmouth will fix it. I think this decision needs to wait for a few reasons. Reason number 1, you don't have all the numbers and the data that you need to know for sure that this needs to be done and that it needs to be done now. $1.2 million is what is on all of the presentations, but as far as I know, you still don't have the health benefits actual costs for next year from the broker. So you actually don't know what the budget gap really is, if there even is one. Next year's budget assumes an increase for the benefits of $1.4 million, based on the workshop meeting deck from February 5th. If that number instead stays flat, then as I understand it, this $1.2 million budget gap is gone for next year. We may not even have a budget gap at all in that scenario. We really should know for sure that we have a budget shortfall before we vote to close a school because of a budget shortfall. We also don't have an upgraded demographic study to give a more current view on our population and any foreseeable impact from all the new developments in the area. It seems very extreme to be making such a heavy and permanent decision as closing a school without having all the info in front of you. Reason number 2, assuming the broker numbers do come back and we do still have a budget shortfall, it is not a gaping wound. $1.2 million is a relatively tiny number when you think of our whole budget. It's less than 1%, it's actually 0.07%. Yet to address it, it seems like we are trying to amputate instead of doing a precise surgery with a scalpel. If we were 10 million or 15 million in the hole, I'd understand that drastic action is needed. But we're not. While our budget situation isn't great, it does not seem to be in such bad a state that it merits an action as drastic and immediate as this one. When VR goggles are still a line item on the proposed budget, you're not in emergency mode. It is unfair to make a decision like this outside of the strategic planning process that is currently going on. The process was meant to bring the community together with the board and administration to come up with a collaborative plan to address our known issues, and it was working. We all knew that some big changes were going to come out of it, but we all thought they would happen after the process was complete. We were on a path, especially after Form 3B, and then this was announced. It feels like a betrayal, especially happening smack dab in the middle of a process whose theme was supposed to be transparency. Option 1 is the administration would opt to withdraw this proposal for now until the benefits brokers numbers are in and the updated demographic study is done. That way, if this consolidation is still going to be proposed, it is part of a bigger solution that more fully addresses the overcrowding issues in the district so that our community can shoulder big changes all at once and together. Option 2.
Excuse me, Mr. Your time is up.
Okay, you can ask to delay the vote. You can wait, the board can make motion to ask to delay the vote so you have the numbers that you need. Option 3, you can vote it on tonight. If you vote yes, it will be there in the budget. So you settle with the
In particular, I'd like to highlight the lack of opportunity for us to have a productive and informed deliberation period to consider the implications of this decision. There has been a severe lack of transparency on the part of the administration, as many of our questions have gone unanswered. For example, we have been informed that one additional bus will be added to the service of the children from the Port Monmouth Sending District. However, information on which children will be included on this new route is still unknown. I, for example, live 1.8 miles away from New Monmouth Elementary School, which by district standards does not provide me with the option of putting my niece on a bus. As many of you saw, and I thank you for your support, I live streamed the walk my niece would have to take from New Monmouth each morning. At an adult pace, it took me 50 minutes, and I had to cross busy roads including Main Street, Wilson Avenue, Cherry Tree Farm Road, and New Monmouth Road, all utilized heavily during the normal morning commute. I understand that additional crossing guards will be posted, and we have not received any information as to where they will be. It is also my understanding that crossing guards only go on duty 30 minutes prior to school opening, leaving 20 minutes of my niece's walk unmanned. Of course, this is at an adult's pace, not considering that a child will take longer, particularly if there is rain or snow. It also concerns me that we do not have any option as to where our children will be sent, as I live much closer to 2 other elementary schools in this sending district. However, what I find most disturbing is the fact that closing a school which has serviced this community for almost a century is not a decision that should be made in 23 days. Especially when so much is yet unknown. The people this decision will ultimately have an impact on do not even have access to the vital information needed to understand how this will affect them. Given the timeline and lack of information, it seems this decision is being made behind closed doors. As cited in the Asbury Park Press, when the Township of Old Bridge was informed in January 2019 that an elementary school was likely to close, the vote was not held for 6 months. I do not understand why this vote has been rushed the way it has, and it is my assumption that the administration prefers not to give parents and caretakers the chance to question the decision and search for alternatives. As this will affect many families and have implications we cannot possibly understand with the information we've been given, it is my opinion and the opinion of many of us in this room that we deserve, at the very least, respect and transparency from the administration. What has been given to us are non-answers and no time. This is unacceptable, and it is my sincere hope that the board can speak to its better angels and allow us as a community to have a conversation rather than to have to sit idly by while critical decisions about our family and children are being made for us. We deserve the opportunity to debate this and the time to consider different paths. Before closing, I'd like to recognize Joan Minuis, who has been brave enough to question the lack of information being provided to us. Again, thank you for your time.
Yeah, we started at
7:12. You started at 7:42.
So again,
Do your math.
made the announcement pursuant to the board's bylaws. It was 7:09.
Waste of time again.
Because members of the public questioned that process pursuant to time of public comment. That was the
It's
public
okay,
process.
kids. Our opinions don't matter. It don't matter.
I would make another motion.
Excuse me, yes. Go ahead.
I would make another motion at this time to have further public comment for another 30 minutes.
And I-
Just so we're clear, that's a separate and different motion from earlier. Earlier was unlimited time.
Microphone.
Can't hear you.
The motion has been moved, it's been properly seconded. Are there any questions or discussion?
Talk into the microphone, please. Turn it
There
on.
was, it's not working.
Oh, it's not
Not our
working.
issue. Can't hear you.
Now, and for now or for?
I'm saying for now to extend it for another 30 minutes.
I think that that's a good idea, considering the gravity. However, one thing that I might ask, especially since there are so many children here, is that we don't heckle and that we could comment in a constructive way, free from any personal attacks. And it has gone this way tonight, but in previous meetings it's gotten a little bit unruly. So I'm willing to definitely let people speak, as we've been listening to the public throughout and reading the emails. I'm fine with the other 30 minutes, but I would really appreciate it if there's no heckling and. What do you think?
Yeah, and if we could refrain from treating each other fairly. There are people here who have different opinions, and they'd like to speak tonight as well. So please take them into consideration as well.
Pam, I just want to add on tonight for an opinion. We're cutting off people from talking.
You didn't even let half of us in.
And I think what Rob, good, she's saying, let's open up the comment, let's let it go on for longer, but let's be open to other people's discussion as well and have a civil board meeting. Let's go back to a civil board meeting. We've kind of got off the rails for the last couple meetings, and I'd be willing to extend the public comment if it could be civil.
Mrs. Caminiti.
What schools did you go to?
Extend public comment for number 30.
Yes.
Mr. Franco.
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Yes.
Mr. Little.
Yes.
Mrs. Mingus.
Yes.
Mrs. Wright. Yes. Mrs. Stella. Mrs. Rogers.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Just for the record, I'm not talking about Neil thing. I'm looking at my iPhone. It's 7:38 p.m. We're gonna, for the purposes of this, start at 7:39 p.m. So we don't take any more time. Your 3 minutes start now. 30 minutes from 7:39 will satisfy the motion the board just passed. Thank you.
My name is Jessie Stickler. I'm from Port Monmouth. I have 3 children in the district. This is my daughter Julie. She was 5 and her twin was 5, and in Port Monmouth at the time of Sandy. My comments are for the members of the board. Rules and policy are in place for a reason, to make sure that recommendations and plans are followed in an appropriate and ethical manner. When you allow an administration to improvise when providing supporting evidence for a proposal, you are in effect going against your own code of ethics and what you should stand for as an elected BOE member. You are voted in place to ensure that the administration does not construct manipulative proposals to deceive the people. You are supposed to be our voice and protect the rights of the children. The children come first, and there is nothing about this proposal that is in the best interest of the children. If you vote yes, you are confirming that you are acceptant of a plan that was not well thought out and was thrown together in less than a month with no community involvement. If you vote yes, you are confirming that you are acceptant of the way the information was withheld from the public until we asked for it. If this proposal was in good faith, then there should not have been anything to hide. Yet multiple requests and Oprah filings were necessary just so we could get the alleged supporting evidence. If you vote yes, you are confirming that you are acceptant of doing what's easy versus doing what's right. If you vote yes, you are confirming you are acceptant of the data manipulation and misleading statements made by this proposal. If you believe in following district policy and procedure, you must vote no. If you believe in upholding the district code of ethics, you must vote no. If you believe in keeping families together in schools, you must vote no. Any plan where you must grandfather in children while leaving their siblings exposed to redistricting is not a good plan. This is plain common sense. If you believe in the safety of our children, you must vote no. If you truly want to address the main concern of the people of Middletown, which is class size and overcrowding in our South schools, you must vote no. If you believe in District Policy 0120, that states, the board shall act as the general agent of the state in carrying out the will of the people of Middletown in the matter of public education, you must vote no. As I've said before, the School Ethics Act is intended to ensure that the conduct of school officials holds the respect and confidence of the people. The legislature declared that school officials must avoid conduct in violation of their public trust or which creates a justifiable impression that the public's trust is being violated. I urge you to uphold your oath and follow district policy and your code of ethics and vote no to closing Port Monmouth School.
Three children, 2 currently enrolled in Port Monmouth, they're standing beside me. I want you guys to vote no, clearly. I'm appalled at how this has come to pass, with all the lies and manipulation, how information was released to us, or should I say lack of, complete lies about the condition of our school. The $2, $3, $4 million that supposedly it needs, the number keeps changing.
previous Board of Education members and a husband of a current member attacking our school and parents on social media, dilapidated building, toxic fumes, Route 36. I guess we should sue the board for putting our children in such deplorable conditions for all of these years. Social media posts saying that our elementary school nurses must be giving out sedatives and parents must be self-medicating. Then let's promote our book about anxiety for kids. Really? Yeah. Former Board of Education members and current spouses, your answers are not answers to our questions. Your estimates, approximate, very fluid figures are not good enough. Outdated reports. How can you say you have researched anything with no current, actual, hard facts and figures? I appreciate that this is a very difficult decision with many issues, but I don't think the 194 students of Port Monmouth Elementary School should have to suffer the brunt of your poor planning. The entire district should be making cuts across the board. Start at the top, not the bottom. I'm sorry, but administration needs to be trimmed, not teachers and not our schools. How is it acceptable to treat our children with such disregard so that you can save money for use of unnecessary, non-educational expenses? There are many places to save money, and we are happy to show you where they are. Making cuts will upset people, but there's a big difference between being disappointed that you can't do something rather than being emotionally uprooted and ripped from your safe, highly effective learning environment. Our school is being looked at as trimmed but useful fact because closing our school leaves the district and title money open to be redistributed throughout the entire district. I am not seeing any positive outcome of the trimmed fat of Port Monmouth students, not to mention future Port Monmouth students who will be affected when you do redistrict. That totally will dissolve whatever is left of our community. This is a careless, rash decision which needs better planning. Closing our school is the wrong thing to do. I ask again, 17 schools are our district footprint. You said you want to reduce it to how many? How many schools will eventually close?
In 2022, when my little brother started school, my mom wanted to go to two different elementary schools to get my brothers and an elementary middle school. I'm supposed to walk to Port Monmouth to meet them, which I was actually looking forward to. Small community schools are more beneficial to the district. Recently, River Plaza has been used for overflowing children and special ed children. What about if you need to overflow in the future? Middletown's population is getting bigger, not smaller. Parents do not want larger classes with more teachers. They want smaller classes with one teacher. Prove to us kids that Dr. George was telling the truth when he told us that he was proud of us and hears us, and our opinions matter. Vote no and don't close my school, please.
My name is Rosemary Roman. I am a third grader at Port Monmouth and a high school student at North. Board members, I stand here not just as a parent, but as a resident of the district you are school board members of, urging you to vote against the consolidation proposal introduced by Dr. George nearly 3 weeks ago that outlined a plan to displace Port Monmouth students and their families, forcing them to travel nearly 2 miles each way, an average walking commute of 2 to 3 hours an average walking commute of 2 to 3 hours each day. I ask you to truly act as is stated in the School District Policy and Regulations, Section 0120, as a general agent of the state in carrying out the will of the people in Middletown in the matter of public education. To date, 4,325 people have taken the time to sign a petition titled Save Port Monmouth Elementary, circulated with the intent of demonstrating the will of the Middletown community against this proposal. Further, I implore the board to do as stated in Policy 7130 and not commit itself to the closing of any school facility without first having collected and considered appropriate information regarding student enrollments and the educational adequacy of school facilities, relevant safety and traffic factors, district revenues, and alternative district organization plans. Unless the intention is to deliberately act against this policy, I urge you to use your combined experience and education to support Dr. George in designing and proposing alternative solutions that would combat the school funding formula that's being touted as yet another rationale for closing a neighborhood school, rather than succumbing to it. I would ask you that you take this vote off the agenda today or postpone it and further investigate any and all pilots, payments in lieu of taxes, any special agreements between local officials and developers that can simultaneously influence the bottom line for our school district, as well as scrutinize any and all promises and or incentives that would result in devastating repercussions for the current and incoming residents of Middletown, not just Port Monmouth residents. I urge you to take a look at every single student that you've allowed in here tonight and look at your younger selves and do the right thing and vote no.
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, this is my final 3 minutes to speak to you about the consolidation proposal. And I would like to dedicate this time to the children of Port Monmouth Elementary School. Many of these kids are here tonight because they want to hear your vote. As members of the Board of Education, it is not your job to represent the administration. It is your job as an elected official to represent the people, specifically these kids. Tonight, you need to represent these kids. Close down your school. No! I don't know about you. If I were in your position, that right there would be all that I would need to say, you know what? This is not the proposal we need right now. This is not the right plan right now. Maybe we need to do better. We do need to do better than this proposal. You'll notice that I said it's not the right plan right now. We all acknowledge that something needs to be done, but it needs to be done properly, in the right order, with the full, correct information. These kids deserve at least that. They deserve a fair, well thought out, complete plan that will carry them more than just a year or two. You represent these kids. They, their parents, and their community have made it crystal clear in these past 3 weeks on exactly how they want you to represent them tonight. This proposal is not the way, not now. You owe it to these kids to vote it down tonight. These kids are counting on you. Before I sit down, I want to ask each member of the board to do me a favor. Before you give your vote in a little while, please take a moment to look each one of these kids in their eyes and think about whether your vote is representing them or not. And then, if you do vote yes to close their school, please be ready to explain yourselves to them. Thank you.
How we found ourselves here 22 days after a proposal was made to close our school. I'm choosing to take this time to plead with every single person in the room. We all took this job to better our entire school district for all of the children in Middletown. I realize that many of you are experiencing I realize that many of you are experiencing the pressure of the job. However, the fact remains that the fate of our school, our children, and our community is now in your hands. This is not a decision to be taken lightly or made in haste. I realize that balancing a budget within a restricted amount of time is a daunting task, and voting no will cause you, already know we're going to go back to the drawing board, but I ask you to please commit yourself to take advantage of the many options that we're giving you to save money and do what is right. Please don't vote yes because you're overwhelmed with the task at hand. I realize this task cannot be made fully based on our strong emotions and attachments to our school, our home, and our community. But again, I ask that you reach within yourselves and truly examine your heart and the reasons why you may want to vote yes to closing our school. Maybe some don't want to go against the grain of the administration, maybe others feel pressured by their community, and others may feel pressured by loved ones. I ask you to sincerely do this right for our children. The reason our school needs to be closed basically comes down to dollars and cents. Because let's be honest, if the state gave us $4.6 million tomorrow, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We wanted solutions as to how you can possibly find the funds to save our school. You have been presented with many well thought out options. Please choose to use that as your jumping point to create a new budget. We all tell our children that everything worth anything in life requires hard work, dedication, and fortitude. I implore you to do the right thing. We know who you can be to us. You can be the board that didn't give up on our children, and we will be forever grateful and remember that from election day. This day will be a memory that none of us in this room, this community, and all of you will never forget. Hopefully, you'll all feel the same way I do and do what is right. Vote no to closing our school.
This school means a lot to me. I will show you 3 reasons why. The school is important because it has many history. For example, all the kids painted stairs. That was their books. That was their passions. We need to keep that. My second reason why the school is important is because we recently had a relaxing room that we can go in. And again, who wanted to do that to us? My last reason that the school is important to me is because this place means life to me. For example, this place is the only school I've ever been to, and I really wanted to graduate here. In conclusion, I know in your heart you will say yes to keep my passion. Thank you.
Mother of 3 children who have had the benefit of going through the Middletown School District, and 1 daughter who's a sophomore in Middletown South. And I've also had the benefit and the honor of spending 6 years sitting on the Board of Education. I do want to talk to you tonight about Policy 7130, which many people have discussed. The thing I'd like to say, can you hear me?
Just maybe okay.
The thing I'd like to say about Policy 7130 is it was revised in March of 2018. It was not a mandatory policy when it was revised. Of the people who were sitting up there, everybody voted for it unanimously. Mrs. Wright, you weren't there yet, and neither was Mr. Jaimo. Fortunately, you're both attorneys and you understand the benefit and the gravity of the policy. The policy does state that you need to provide the state with the assurances that the district can house the students for 5 years following the policy. I don't know how you do that when you only have the information to back it up to 2021. I'm going to not request that you vote no. I'm going to request that you table this until you get that information. If you cannot table it, then the only thing you can do is vote no. Boardsmanship. Thank you.
Okay, my name is Michelle Pitzer. I just want to say this process
process has been eye-opening, frustrating, maddening, and disheartening, and far from democratic. The words Dr. George has spoken earlier this evening and over the past few weeks may seem reasonable and fair on their surface, but these platitudes are hollow, the numbers are false, and his proposal completely falls apart under scrutiny. He has cowardly used the lawyer as a shield to protect himself from having to have a fair dialogue. The lawyer has also been used as a tool to silence dissenting opinions and voices on the board itself, which is disgraceful. Voters should be able to trust their administration to present the truth, the actual truth, to the board and to the voters. But any trust that we once had has now been completely forfeited by this skewing of information and numbers to fit your agenda. This has been a bad faith process, and I demand that the board votes no.
I'm just going to quickly finish because I didn't get to finish the first time. I do think it would be irresponsible of the board to vote tonight without knowing the health broker's benefits numbers for next year. If that number doesn't change from this year, the budget gap goes away. This doesn't have to happen this year. This can be considered as part of a bigger proposal after all the strategic planning process is done. However, if you do decide to vote tonight, obviously I ask you to vote no on the grounds that you don't have the information you need. Because the worst thing I can imagine is that a vote happens to close this school, and 6 months from now, when we do have the data, when we are developing a full action plan out of strategic planning, that there are regrets, and we realize we could have handled this differently or better if we had just waited. If this school is closed, there is no turning back. If you do vote yes, as I see it, what you are saying to us is that you truly believe that closing this school is the absolute only way that Middletown can deal with a 0.07% budget shortfall for next year, and that you have personally looked line by line through the itemized budget to make sure that there are absolutely no other alternatives. There is nothing else that we as a district as a whole can cut or punt to next year to be able to close this gap. We have time. You don't have to do this tonight. $1.2 million is not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. Find it, keep Pomo open one more year, and make all the changes together if you have to next year. Thank you.
Hello, board members. I'm Angelina Reed, and I'm an alumni of Portmont Elementary School, and I'm the third generation of my family. My little sister still goes there. It's a shame that closing is the only option. You aren't solving any issues. The fact that there's overcrowding in any school in this town just proves closing a school down isn't smart. The smartest thing to do is redistrict. I graduated high school as a member of National Honor Society, president of Italian Honor Society, and received multiple scholarships, and I'm in my second semester of college and already got asked to be in another honor society. You want to know who I credit that to? Not only my family, but to a small family-oriented community elementary school. If you vote to close this school, you are robbing future generations of this opportunity. Not only these kids, but also my sister. Also, there's always room to make adjustments financially to make a budget work. I'm 19 and I know how to make a budget work. What will happen to Mrs. Nardini, Nurse Kathy, and the wonderful custodians? Mrs. Nardini treats every student like her own. She's been there for years. My older sister went through that school, and she had Miss Nardini. Miss Nardini treats everyone with respect. All she does is care for these children. So what are you doing? Thank you.
Okay, seeing no one at the mic, I'd like to move on to the resolution of consolidation of Port Monmouth and New Monmouth Elementary.
before we do that, may I just say something? Ms. Sickler, you made a comment before not to make the easy choice. And this doesn't seem very easy. This is a heartbreaking choice to even be in this position. As a teacher.
Can you hold it to the end?
Sure.
Can you hold it? Yeah.
Well, no, let me just finish this. Just as a teacher of 20 years, our option that was presented is to fire 15 teachers.
I'm sorry, on behalf of the board president, she was trying to call a point of order to maintain the protocol and the order of the meeting pursuant to the agenda. It may be appropriate to make this similar comment during the board member comment once the motion is moved and seconded.
Okay.
You can comment on the item, but we're just trying to be fair to the public as well as the board members by having the board comply with the same rules that we had in public. Thank you.
There's no care.
Excuse me, I have a question for the attorney. When can I make a motion?
Make a motion at any time.
Okay, so I want to make a motion, and I think, Pam, as the board president, I'd like you to table this vote tonight.
If I may, before you do that, the board president already asked for a motion on the agenda item first, so that should be addressed first. And then if that is not moved and seconded, then we can go on to yours. But there's already a motion that the board president asked to be made on the table. So the motion was that she asked for was to agenda item A1, resolution for consolidation of Port Monmouth and Monmouth Elementary School. Is there anyone who's going to move that? Anybody can move that?
So moved.
It's been properly moved. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments amongst the board members? Seeing none.
Yeah, no. I thought Robin was going to speak because this is the time to speak on this issue. So I was waiting for her. Are you going to speak?
Am I supposed to finish at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. Sometimes I get confused with the formalities of the meetings, but anyway, I've been a teacher for 20 years, and since when I first decided to run for Board of Ed, I never thought to ever close a school. I thought that that would be terrible and unnecessary, but then S2 happened, and in my own district, we're faced with possibly cutting a school, and we only have 4. And all over New Jersey, this is happening. And I know that that doesn't make it easier for the people of Port Monmouth because it's happening to you. And I really do understand. The thought of firing 15 teachers to not only eliminate their livelihoods, but my bigger concern is what that would do to class sizes, because the 15 teachers would likely come from some of the more populated schools where the class sizes are already sky high. So lately I've been hearing from parents from Bayview and Lincroft and Nutswamp and even Harmony about how they feel, and as much as I want to advocate only for Port Monmouth, I have to advocate for 9,600 students who need to have fair class sizes in order to learn. So that's just my, and redistricting will be happening. This is a budget issue.
Do that first.
Okay, so.
Do that first.
Okay.
Yeah, redistricting is pretty much inevitable, and it will be on the table, but that has to be something that comes out of the strategic plan. There is no other situation, and Mel Walker went through this with you at one of the meetings. There is no other situation where we can take all from one school and put them in another school. There just isn't room for all of the children to go together. This is an opportunity for all of the children to go together, and that's why.
Please respectfully ask the public to refrain from interrupting the meeting. There was
No, we have a right to
public
speak.
comments.
How many trailers are you going to put in our schoolyard?
And pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, the public had their opportunity to speak an hour this evening, which was 30 minutes more than the bylaws
decision.
allow for. So there's a motion that's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any other comments from board members?
I'm
Go ahead.
respecting the public. Get on my face, please.
I think it needs to be addressed because the word heckle keeps being used. We're talking about children's lives, families' lives being disrupted. This isn't an easy situation. When last week when I tried to talk about Pam speaking on behalf of the board, I understood completely that she has that right. But what I was trying to explain to the board, and Deborah, you looked at me at that meeting and you said, what is she talking about? It's the misinformation that's going out in emails. Now that's why we had, I guess, the recommendation to have the board president speak on behalf of the board. But there's an email here that was written by the board and said that the board leadership reached out to the township mayor and deputy mayor, and that we are hoping to repurpose the building as a community or recreation center for the people. That's something me as a board member, I had no idea you did on my behalf. So when I saw this, it has to do with the vote, so don't try to cut me off, please. This is the kind of communication that upsets an entire community. One email says that on Friday, wait, have it marked, look. That on a Friday, I believe that the goal is to offer all Port Monmouth students busing as well as the option to go to schools that are closer in their home if they'd like to for safety reasons.
On a case-by-case basis.
But no, this say on day-by-day cases.
Okay.
Following
well, then the next day, Dr. George said he would on a
Please.
case-by-case basis.
Yeah. This is the kind of information that upsets all these people, because one day we're having a meeting and they're being told one thing, and the next day they're getting an email from you and they're being told something else, and maybe their hopes get up, and then the next day they're being told, no, that's not going to happen, and then the next day they're told that they're going to be grandfathered in, but then the next day their siblings won't be included. This recreation center really set me off last week. Truly set me off, because I would like to know here and now what went on in that conversation, because it says we. If we don't have money to keep this school open, how are we going to repurpose that with the town?
What we could do with the building. Use it for the community. So I speak to the deputy mayor and the mayor all the time, and myself and Mrs. Casual conversation said, what could we do to repurpose the school should we end up closing it? And we were talking about how members of the Port Monmouth community reached out to us and said they would like us to use it as a center for the community to give back to that community, right? Rather than, let me finish, rather than make it argument or something like that. That's what that was about.
So we're going to ask members of the public to please refrain from interrupting.
3 minutes
If
is
there are other comments, you may call for roll call.
I'm sorry?
Come on, I want to finish my comments, because I didn't do this to cause a ruckus. But this is my point, that you spoke to the township committee on behalf of us as a board, and half of us don't even know what went on. And that's what
I apologize for that.
Yeah, and that's what frustrated me last week. For now, for the vote, what I want to say is, we went through the strategic plan. And one of the top numbers, and Pam, you and I had this conversation, was the public didn't want to close neighborhood schools. So to me, and this is my opinion, because Mr. Tower said we're allowed to have our personal opinions, this closing kind of snuck in there, because nowhere in our budget presentations did we as a board discuss it. In fact, people, nowhere in our budget presentations did the Board of Education speak. Last week, we were cut off. I have never been a part of a budget process, which this is supposed to be so transparent, where we didn't offer opinions or suggestions. We just sat there and we listened. And I'm including myself in there. We didn't, this is not a normal budget process. This is a big decision. I truly believe that this should be done under strategic planning. I agree with Rachel and everybody else. If we're going to do something, it has to be as a group, as a community. Closing Port Monmouth is not helping Thompson's overcrowding. It's not helping South. And another point that you said at the last meeting in your purpose room was, realize as board members, if we didn't support absolutely not true. Because we as a board have the right to Dr. George back with a budget that comes out with not closing the school and not cutting staff. This is not about cutting staff for me. I've seen it done. You have seen it done, Pam, because when I was president, you asked me to send the budget back to come back. We don't have to do it this way. We can do it the right way. I see this as Middletown's one chance to get it right. And I hope that we can do it the right way.
Comment on behalf of the Vice President. Formal, casual conversation between other elected officials in town. There were no commitments made or assurances made.
It's sent out.
I just want to make sure it's clear that
it's clear, Mr. The comment is the email went to the family, and everybody's saying, oh, they're unreasonable, they're loud, they're screamers, they're this or that. We would all be that way if this was our children. We would all be that way. And you saw what the community was like when we talked about band. And right away, we had to make a statement right away that we're not going to do that because the message was loud and clear. Well, there's only 192 kids in this school. And to me, that message is loud and clear. And it's not helping the rest of the community to shut them down. We should come up with a better plan. And when somebody speaks, then you're going to send out an email like this saying that you have this conversation. Please let the rest of the board know what's going on.
I apologize for that. Sometimes I overly transparent and tell people things. Roll call. Roll call vote. I said I think we need roll call vote.
Point of order. Restoring discussion. Point of order.
This is Kamenetsky.
So I have a point of information or a question. Is that not allowed at this point?
You're under discussion.
we've already finished the public discussion, question, comments. We're technically asking question, comment.
Why is the board being silent?
Yeah, now the board's not allowed to speak. Couldn't be past the comment section because
This is so freaking corrupt. Yeah, I know.
It's not
It's under discussion. You have to let them talk about it before the vote goes through. There's a point of order in parliamentary procedure.
That's right.
That's it, let them speak. You got paid by the hour anyway, or by the minute. If you don't want to be here, leave. Let them speak.
Who wants to speak? Who wants to speak? Mrs. Wright, did you want to speak? Go ahead.
So, well, yes, I would like to speak.
Thank
First,
you.
I have a question. So, in entertaining Leonora's thought process in terms of tabling this vote, I hear you say tabling, I hear to when. But my question is, if we were to table this for more information, could this be something that we could table till next week's meeting when we have an initial vote on the budget? Or do we know approximately when the healthcare savings information might come in?
Mrs. Doherty, maybe you should have done previous years on the time frame on the health benefits.
Well, first of all, just to clarify, we cannot bring a budget for the board to vote on next week without knowing what that plan is going to be. So if we're going to postpone
Need to have a
this
referendum and let the township people vote.
Dr. George and I and the administrative team will not be able to put together a comprehensive plan for you to vote on. So I don't see those two things being done simultaneously. and then, we are scheduled to vote on the budget next week. Just
Can you
to
speak in the
clarify.
microphone? I'm sorry, we just can't. Can you
I'm
speak in the
sorry.
microphone?
Right.
Thank you.
As far as, health benefits information, I just want to remind the board to our overall plan at this point, $500,000 of reduction on the amounts that we were currently budgeting, as a point of savings. I also want to just clarify that we were working on coming up with a plan to close a $2.5 million gap. So there are other things in the budget plan that may or may not come to fruition as well, but this is our best knowledge as of this time, which is what we always have to do a budget every year. And for example, part of our plan is to take money out of our very small maintenance reserve and put that toward the budget, which is not a recommended practice. Well, that's part of the plan as well. There are things, we have to put together a plan every year based upon the facts and the knowledge that we have at that point. Sometimes there are changes, sometimes they're beneficial, sometimes they're not. At the end, reviewing the budget numbers back in December and January. So I'm not sure if that answers your question.
And if I could clarify another board member comment, since the implementation of S2, the district has eliminated 27 regular education teaching positions, 3 administrative positions, 4 secretary positions, a facilities position, total number of 35 positions. And when we talk about eliminating positions, we've done that through the process of attrition, and we do that every year. Without the opportunity of the consolidation of the schools, the opportunity for attrition is going to be that much more difficult because of the inefficiencies of running 12 elementary schools for the number of elementary students we have. So we have taken advantage of all those measures in our current configuration, which is why we as an administrative team are making the proposal for a reduction in the overall footprint is the only way at this point to significantly be able to create the opportunity for long-term financial stability. And I just want to make one other point about the demographic study, because that came up a lot tonight. So the demographic study is in year 3 of a 5-year plan, and it's running at an 8% lower than what was projected. So when we say that this expected spike, that spike is not consistent with what we're seeing nationally, it's not consistent with what we're seeing in the state, and it's not consistent with the significant decrease that we've had since the implementation of S2. I just want to make that.
But just to add to that, we have not seen the developments come in yet. They're not even built yet.
That comes to our district. They're building, they're looking to develop Sandy Hook with single-family homes in there. Those children are going to be coming to our district also.
And so is the Board of Belford when they redo that.
That was factored into the last revenue projection that we had. All of those.
Okay.
All planned and approved proposals are included in the current demographic study.
Okay. I want to talk to Mrs. Wright. I want to talk to Mrs. Rogers. We can ask for them to please go back to look at the budget again. Not cut staff, cut line items that are not necessary. That can be done in a full week. I know it's a lot of work, but that's part of the job. I'll help. Yes. We can't ask for that.
If we vote no on this, they have to go back and fix the budget for next week. They know that.
And then we'll lose 15 teachers district-wide. I'm going to ask for a roll call, please. Roll call, please. Roll call.
Mrs. Caminiti?
Mr.
Mr. Little? Mrs. Minuis? No. Mrs. Wright?
Wow.
Mrs. Stella? Mrs. Rogers?
Yes.
Turn it back.
You're shameful, disgrace. This is the most corrupt district in New Jersey right now.
Shame on you! Shame on you!
Shame!
I need a motion to adjourn the meeting, please. I need a motion to adjourn and a second, please.
Ma'am, may you please
Motion
back
to
up
adjourn
from the
this
table,
meeting.
please? Can you please back up from the table, ma'am? Thank you.
Motion to adjourn the
Please
meeting.
back up from the table. Thank you. Can you please back up from the table? Thank you.
I need a motion to adjourn, please. Motion to adjourn. Second, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention?